As I was flipping through the TV stations, I believe I saw the phrase, alone together, alone together. And I thought that's a very fitting phrase for what we're going through right now. Obviously, we're experiencing aloneness and that we're self-isolating, that we're left alone with our own thoughts a lot of the time. But this is also a powerful time of communion, of solidarity with others. I think of how, as a country, this is probably the most united we've been in quite some time. I think about how we can really work on our key relationships during this time. I know one way that I've experienced my togetherness with others is that I've been thinking more about people in poorer countries than I've thought about in a long time. As Americans, of course, we're very blessed to live in a country that's very wealthy, that has a great healthcare system, where the population density isn't all that great. And I think a lot about how this pandemic is going to affect nations where the healthcare system is not so good, where they're not so wealthy, where people are packed much closer together in the cities. And I just find myself praying for them in a way that I haven't in quite some time. I think another way that I'm experiencing communion with others is that just as I do small activities throughout the day, I'm doing them for other people in a way that I don't normally do. I think normally I'm just so busy with tasks that I'm just trying to get them done one after another, and I'm not really being intentional about what I'm doing. During this time, I'm aware that at my age, if I contracted the virus, in all likelihood, I wouldn't show any symptoms. But the problem would be I could transmit it to others and thereby make them transmitters of the disease as well. And so I'm discovering that as I'm having to think, okay, how do I do this task in a way that minimizes my contact with other people? I'm thinking about this really is an act done to help other people. And I'm just thinking about other people and my small tasks more than I usually do. And that's a great blessing for me, a way to feel connected with others. This is a time where we can connect with our most significant relationships. Normally in the rush of life, we spend a lot of our day with people where the relationships are a bit more peripheral. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if during this time of hunkering down with our loved ones that tensions are rising. But I also hope it's a time that as we spend time with the most important people in our lives, that we're just enjoying their presence. We're doing small little things, little recreations that build up those relationships. We know that when those most significant relationships are built up, that's when we have the most to give. And so this is a time to experience communion with the people closest to us. And it's really going to help us when we get back to our daily normal lives. Our most important relationship is our relationship with God. And this is a time to try to strengthen that relationship as best we can. Of course, we have fewer things pulling at our attention, pulling us away from prayer than we normally have. We can really build up our prayer lives. We're blessed to be in a parish where for a long, long time now, the leadership of the parish has invested in bringing in very well-known Catholic speakers. And most of these speakers, of course, have online platforms. The last big speaker that we brought in was Father Joe Krupp. I was just looking at the interview he gave at the diocese last week and was just really built up by a lot of the insights he had about what's going on. Of course, the big speaker that was brought in before him was Father Chris Alar. A parishioner was just showing me the Mass that he presided at last weekend. And what a powerful sermon he gave that really gets us to think about what's going on at this time. This could be a great time to just think, okay, over the past years or decades, who's the Catholic speaker that's inspired me the most? And just to look up that speaker and see what he or she is saying about what's going on. Of course, if we're connecting ourselves to Catholic resources online, we're going to be stronger when we go back to our daily lives. As far as Catholic resources, I continually bring up formed.org. Both the amount of content and the diversity of Catholic content on Formed are really great. I think there's something for everyone there. And we can really build up our faith by going there to formed.org. This Sunday, we're going to live stream Mass at 9 a.m. and we'll have a couple of live streamed Masses next week on Tuesday and Friday. Both Tuesday and First Friday will be at 8 a.m. We're working on a couple other events for Holy Week that we hope will be very uplifting as well. This is a time to experience togetherness with the saints. Our bishop has asked us to turn to Joseph in a particular way. Joseph is the great protector, the protector of the Holy Family. And so we ask him, through his prayers, to protect our world, our loved ones, ourselves, to keep us all from harm. This past week, we had a great feast of Mother Mary, the Annunciation, when the angel Gabriel came to her. We think about what trust and surrender she must have had to God's plan, believing that God's plan was what was best for everyone. And she had to go through horrible things. She had to experience the death of Joseph, the horrible death of her son. And yet she continued to surrender, to trust. She is a great model for us to turn to ask for her prayers. If we're able to surrender during this time, to trust God during this time, we're going to experience a greater peace, a greater growth than we would otherwise have. So it's true that this is a time in which we're alone in ways that we're not usually alone. But this is also a time of great communion. This is a time where we're together with our most significant relationships, and we can build up those relationships. It's a time where we can focus on our most important relationship of all, the relationship with God, and strengthen that relationship. This is a time where we're united in our activities with so many other people in our society and throughout our world. Brothers and sisters, this really is a time of communion and of solidarity. And let's just realize that we have that communion, that solidarity with us as we press onward. God is with us, but there is a great togetherness that's happening. And let's be aware of that during this time.